My name is Jesse Lavoie, and I'm running a PTSD awareness campaign with the help of Namaste Technologies. I'm here today with Patrick Seifert. How you doing today, Patrick?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, Patrick?
Yes. My name is Patrick Seifert. I owned a Rainier Express, which was a medical cannabis dispensary here in Washington State. I was open from about 2011 till July of last year, when all medical got shut down. With everybody in the state got shut down on the same day, July 1st of last year. Um, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. Did 4 years during the first Gulf War. Didn't go to war. I do have PTSD. Um, the PTSD that I've lived with my whole life. It's from sexual abuse as a child, and so I went into the Marine Corps with PTSD. I had a great 4 years, 4 year tour. Um, Served honorably, and they didn't want to see me leave, but the reason I went into the the Marine Corps was to serve my country. And the first Gulf War was over in 3 days or 4 days or something like that. I was in boot camp when it was over. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to ride these 4 years out. And I always had it in my mind that I was only going to do 4 years and then get out, and that's what I did.
Was it a 4-year contract you initially signed?
Yes, absolutely. I was a 0311 rifleman. I was a scout swimmer, rappel master, and yeah, like I said, and like I told you before we started, I was in Greece. So I did Marine Corps security forces on the island of Crete in Greece for my last year in the Marines. So like I said, I had a dream tour.
Sounds like a dream tour. What are you doing these days?
So through Rainier Express, um, 22 Too Many, this veteran organization that I'd like to talk about whenever we get the chance. That was formed out of Rainier Express. Um, when I opened my doors in late 2011, I catered to veterans from day one. We have a wall of honor inside of our shop where if a veteran came in and felt comfortable giving me a picture of himself or herself while they were in service, I put it in a frame and I put it up on the wall. And we have a big wall right now with a lot of veterans on there that's been hanging for years and years and years, and that's always been my favorite part of the shop. But getting back to catering to veterans, from day one, any veteran that came through our door got 1 free gram of cannabis every day. So that was an ounce a month if they came every day. Um, that's when I really learned firsthand how this medicine really changes broken veterans' lives. Like I was telling you before, I had veterans coming through my door on 16, 17 different pharmaceuticals and coming through the door like zombies, and just through me earning their trust, always being here for them, always having good deals for them, always providing medicine for them. I earned their trust, and slowly but surely got to see these veterans get off of their pharmaceuticals and get onto cannabis and holistic healing. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm a believer, and we want to make everybody else out there believers because what they're doing right now. Today we're going to lose in America 20 veterans today to veteran suicide. It used to be 22. Who knows? It's somewhere between 20 and 22. That doesn't include active duty. That doesn't include reservists, and that also doesn't include veterans that commit suicide with pills. Those deaths are ruled as accidental deaths if they take their pills to kill themselves. So we believe that the number's higher, but regardless, we're rolling with 20 or 22, and it's incredible. Every single day we're losing these veterans, and it's the same system in place that was in place 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's not getting any better, and we're still seeing the same results. And so everything creating 22 Too Many was a necessity. When I first read the article that came out from the VA, that's when my mission started. Essentially, I read the very first article that came out that stated that we were losing 22 a day. And literally, as I read that article, my life changed. For the first 72 to 96 hours, I was on Google 24/7 trying to find if that was a hoax. If that 22, there's no way that could be real. 22 a day is a lot. That's over 8,000 a year, and it's real as the air we breathe. And we're here to do something about it. Our motto for 22 Too Many is by all means necessary, end veteran suicide. And that's what we're trying to do here in this little town in Washington State, in Olympia.
I had no idea the numbers were that high. Is that just in the United States alone?
Yes. And here's a little thing for you. Nobody in the world, I don't think, sees more combat than the Israelis, almost on a daily basis. They, in their army, you can go to their doctor and you can get cannabis from the corpsmen in the Israeli army. So they're light years ahead of where we need to be with this medicine. We've got to have access to this plant, to cannabis for all veterans in all states. I can't even begin to tell you how important it is.
Are there any repercussions for currently serving soldiers to use cannabis?
So right now, in the United States, if you use cannabis in a state that has a medical cannabis program, you're allowed to use it, and you won't lose your benefits. So that's the way it's been. So my doctor at the VA has known I've been using cannabis for over 6 years, and they've never taken away any of my benefits. She always asks me about it. She wishes that she could prescribe it, but she just can't. To them, it's a Schedule I narcotic. And that too, kind of, that just makes our country look silly. When you have cannabis, which has never taken a human life in the history of the world, it's never taken a human life, and it sits on our schedule of narcotics, number one, next to heroin, I think we look silly. I mean, because it's absolutely silly. The other day, it was like the first death, I think, in the United States was caused by a kid drinking too much caffeine. So there you go. Caffeine's more dangerous than cannabis is right now. Cannabis has never taken a human life. Why is it a Schedule I narcotic? It's ridiculous. And we know in the United States right now, in states with medical cannabis programs, suicide rates are lower. Traffic fatalities in states with medical cannabis programs are lower. Overdose on opiates are lower. I mean, the data's out there. We know that this helps. And if it helps, and if we have just one veteran that has been helped by cannabis, then we should have, every veteran should have access. So now with the work I'm doing with Mike Crowitz, we feel that if we get a call from a veteran anywhere in any state, medical or not, and they lose a penny of their veteran benefits solely because they use cannabis, we believe that we can fight it now, and we're going to fight that under ethics. We believe it is unethical for our government to keep this medicine out of every veteran's hands. At the rate of 20 to 22 veterans a day, something else has to be done. Something drastically needs to be changed. And I just recently went to D.C. with Mike, and I got, in front of cameras. I was on the grounds of the Capitol there, and I called out this administration. I was like, listen, this new commander-in-chief wants to go to war with North Korea, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. We're in America. We're in a battle here at home, and the battle is veteran suicide. And you know what? We're losing 20 a day. If we lost 20 a day in Iraq, and it was on the news every single night, 20 Americans killed again today, 20 Americans killed again today, we would not have it. That war would be over before it was started. And what's the difference? We have 20 veterans today that are going to commit suicide, and it's some way, somehow, they've put it in their mind that it's different. It's not different.
This is a problem that needs to be resolved. Your organization, 22 Too Many, when was this established, and can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I'd love to. About 2 years before I was told to close my doors. So we called ourselves 22 Too Many. And when we first started out, funding wasn't a problem because my shop funded everything that we wanted to do for our organization. So we just called ourselves 22 Too Many. Within the first 6 months, we realized, after I called in the veterans that I felt trusted me, that were my patients. I called a meeting, and that's basically how 22 Too Many. I just called in all the veterans I knew were coming here that trusted me with my medicine, called them in and said, listen, we need to do something about this. And they were all willing to do it. And we went up to the first thing we found out was that PTSD was not on the list of qualifying conditions for Washington State. So that was the first thing that we wanted to do. And sure enough, we went up to the Capitol. I did some research. Why wasn't PTSD on the list of qualifying conditions for Washington State? And every year, going back 3 or 4 years, somebody would put together a PTSD bill, and everybody would pile on a bunch of other shit onto the bill, and so it'd always get bogged down, and it would never pass. So I asked Senator Hobbs, who was also a veteran. I was like, listen, if you're going to champion this bill, please let it stand alone all the way to the end. If we want to add something, another like phantom limb, TBI at another date, let's do that. But please, let's just ride this one to the end by itself. And he made that promise to us. And sure enough, he championed that bill. That bill came out of the Senate without a single no vote and ultimately passed. And it's the law now. And they added TBI in the end, and we weren't even asking for TBI. So it was pretty incredible what happened, and that was what we did in just the first 6 months of pulling our resources together and just uniting behind this thing of 20 to 22 suicides a day that nobody is doing anything about. It's completely crazy. So that got started. We changed legislation within the first 6 months, and then after that, we just started doing things. We have a barbecue series. We have weekly meetings. We go out into the community. There's a park a little bit down the street from our headquarters, and it's where all the transients hang out, and it's not the cleanest park in the city, but we go out every other weekend and we clean that for the city. They gave us Volunteers of the Year last year. And I just try to keep these veterans busy, try to always keep in their psyche, that battle buddy awareness. We've got to take care of each other. We all see each other every day here, and we all care about what's happening in each other's lives. And, we're as grassroots could be. I have a whiteboard right behind me here in my office. And if a veteran comes in the next 5 minutes and he needs money for a meal, he needs his tire change, he needs help with his benefits, he needs help with getting a PTSD dog, whatever, we don't care. We're going to do what we can do to facilitate what he needs. They're going to go up on the whiteboard, and we call them whiteboard veterans, and they stay up there until what they came to us with is fixed, or whatever they have in need that we provide for them. So that's a system that we've had in place for years. We have our own suicide hotline. We have our own phone. A lot of veterans don't feel comfortable calling the 1-800 number. Some veterans they've been physically taken to the hospital when they were just trying to call and talk to somebody. The VA has sent out people to come and get them and keep them, locked up for a few days, and that isn't what they needed at that particular time, and so they're really hesitant about calling that number. We have our own hotline number. We do yoga, all sorts of stuff, indoor skydiving, anything that we can do to keep busy, man. It's pretty awesome what's going on down here. And it was all created from, cannabis. The medical cannabis scene in Washington State is like a family. It's pretty incredible. We're all friends on Facebook, and we all talk to each other. We're all talking back and forth almost daily. And it's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat thing to be involved in up here in this state. That's the one thing I love about Washington State is the medical cannabis family. We kind of take care of each other. It's pretty cool.
And besides your organization, is there anything else in place where veterans with suicidal thoughts can go for help?
Yeah, we have incredible resources here. So if we ever get something that is above our pay grade, like, we're not doctors, and if we feel that somebody needs more help than we can provide, we send them to either American Lake, which is the closest VA place here. There's a veteran hub in Lacey, which is just right across town. We haven't, and there's a place called Sidewalk. There's all kinds of different places. If a veteran comes to us that's homeless, we can usually get them into housing within 24 hours. Like the food part is pretty easy. There's a bunch of places around here to get veterans food. Um, and we have incredible resources that we've built over the years of people getting their benefits. That's really a big problem. You know, how you can send a veteran to the battlefield 3 or 4 times and come back and deny his PTSD claim is beyond me. But it happens.
Do you work primarily with veterans who were involved in recent conflicts?
Yes, but up on my wall, that wall of honor I told you about, we have veterans from World War II all the way up to the current conflict. Um, Most of the veterans in my organization, I think I'm the only one that's not a combat vet in our organization. Most of the vets, I'm pretty sure, have all seen combat um, that are involved with 22 too many right now. It's pretty incredible.
If someone wanted to go to your website, do you mind just telling them how to get there?
Yeah, it's 22 too many Olympia.org, and the first part is spelt TWENTY, the number two MANY dash Olympia.org, and we'll pop up there. And our website has all of our information. We have all sorts of. We have a calendar of events. Our education center here. We teach classes. The last class I taught here was MOAB, which was a management of aggressive behavior. Before I got into cannabis and into my veteran organization, I taught self-defense my whole life, and so I was like, man, you know what? I should teach one of my classes in here. We have advocate etiquette classes. Tomorrow we'll have our fifth class in that series, teaching people how to go to the Capitol. There's a way you dress, there's a way you talk, there's a way you present what you're fighting for, and we have different teachers teach it every time so they can get a different perspective of basically how to lobby when you go up there. You know, you don't want to waste your time. If you're going to take a day and go up there and fight for a bill or something you feel strongly about, you want to do it the right way so you're not wasting your time. So that's been a big class. We have growing classes, all kinds of stuff. It's pretty neat what we have going on down here.
Does your organization have any important dates or events coming up?
Yes, July 22nd will be our third annual PTSD Suicide Awareness March, and that will be 11 o'clock at our state capitol is when that will start. And like I said, that will be our third annual. That's basically a march to celebrate us getting PTSD on the list of qualifying conditions. I was the very first patient in the state to get an authorization for cannabis for PTSD, so that was pretty cool since, you know, me and my veterans put in all the work to get it passed. Being the first one to get the authorization was pretty cool. So yeah, we have the march coming up, and if you just follow us on social media, we have fundraisers every single month, and we also have a different program in Washington State that I'd like to tell you about real quickly. It's called the 22 Too Many Veteran Support Depot, and there's the medical shops that are legal here in the state are retail shops. And some of them are what we call, what I just said, the 22 Too Many Veteran Support Depot. And so what does that mean? They have put a big 22 in their window so veterans know that they're one of our support shops. They provide medical cannabis. They give a good veteran discount. And on the 22nd of every month, they do a little fundraiser where all the employees wear a red armband with the number 22 on it, get the word out about veteran suicide. Any veterans come in that need help with anything, they give them our little flyer that has our number to our hotline. And it's basically us, you know, spreading our tentacles out across the state, trying to reach as many veterans as we can. So I'm in Olympia. I have a veteran support hub in Spokane. And if a veteran comes through that door in distress and needs help, they're going to be able to give them our number, and we're going to be able to help them. You know, before these depots popped up, we would have never reached those veterans. You know, and so that's a real exciting program that we have going on. When it's all said and done, we're going to have 22 retail cannabis shops that are 22 too many support depots, and it's basically hubs for veterans. They'll get deals. We'll have barbecues at those shops, all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, that's fantastic. I'd love to have you back on just to follow your progress as you make it.
Can I tell you about that pen, or are we out of time?
Oh no, we got lots of time left. I was actually just about to ask you. you tell me you designed a vaporizer pen called PTS Pen. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh man, I would love to. That's I really believe that as far as cannabis is concerned, this is the tool. This is what a veteran can reach into his toolbox and pull out and get immediate relief for PTSD. I, have certified PTSD, and I went to when I had my shop. I went to my CBD grower. I went to my oil maker, and I was like, "Listen, you guys, I've got to come up with like essentially an epi rescue pen, if you want." For PTSD. I don't get to choose when these thoughts pop into my head, but I can choose to have a vaporizer in my pocket or around my neck on a lanyard. And should I have an episode, I can instantly hit the vape pen. In today's society in America, I can be in the library. I can't light a joint, can't light a bong, and I can't light a pipe. But we can nowadays hit our vape pen and slowly make our way to the door and get to a place where we feel safe and not get ridiculed, for using our cannabis. And so that's I just thought it was essential, And we came up with a daytime version and a nighttime version. Obviously, the daytime we wanted to create something that was going to keep a veteran or a victim of PTSD elevated throughout the day. Nothing that would get you all tired, like in heavy indica or whatnot. That would be for the nighttime, obviously. So we ran trials for about a year and a half to 2 years. We got all the way up to PTSP pen number 5 when we got closed down. But an example of the oil that was in the daytime cartridge, and the daytime cartridge would have a little sticker of a sunshine on it, so they knew it was for the daytime. But the last test we had, thought I had the test right here. I wanted to go over it with you, but it was 56% CBD, and I believe 39% THC, but it was a sativa oil. It was an ACO, alcohol concentrate oil, and it was fantastic. We got really great reviews on it. So we would put a full gram into the daytime, trying to, throughout the year and a half to 2 years, trying to create that entourage effect for the day to get it perfect, get it tuned in to what a veteran really needs. And so a full gram of oil in the day, a full gram of oil in the night. The nighttime obviously had the half moon on it. And the half moon, we just got the heaviest indica that we could get. We ended up with one that was highly recommended and highly sought after by veterans. They kept, from the diaries I read, but it was a purple Nepal, and it was absolutely amazing. So what we wanted to create for the entourage effect for the nighttime was, I have night terrors. A lot of folks with TBR, PTSD have night terrors. You wake up and then you can hit this pin, and it's strong enough to lure you back to sleep, at least for a couple hours, if not 4 hours. And so you got 2 grams of oil, a battery, and a case for it to go in. And I never charged in the entire time that we ran the program. I never charged anybody for the pins. All I asked in return was that they kept a diary or they kept any kind of data for me so I could learn from this. What time of day were you using it? Was it enough for you? Was the nighttime enough for you? Was the daytime enough for you? Did it work at all? I just wanted to collect data so I could make these pens the best I could down the road, And literally each batch, I feel, got a little bit better. That being said, for a year and a half to 2 years, I collected data from these guys, men and women, and victims of PTSD. And I can't even begin to tell you how many men and women came walking through my door in tears telling me that's the first night I've got 4 hours straight of sleep. It's the first time I've eaten a full meal, and just story after story after story about how incredible this pen worked for them. And I really believe that once we get the word out, once we educate veterans that this is, I want to have this be in a veteran separation papers when they get out of the military. In their packet for civilian life, there's a coupon or a whole page on these PTSP rescue pins that we're going to be creating. They're just amazing. And so this is something that Mike and I have been talking about for years, and now it's going to be a reality. We're going to bring it to the market, I believe, in July. July 22nd is our March, and that's what we're hoping to be for our release date of the 22 Too Many PTSD rescue vape pen.
I know we were talking with Mike about potentially working together on that and helping you guys in whatever way we can. Um,
Yes, it's. Can you see the importance of a vet having a PTSD episode? Do you have PTSD? If you had this pen on you. Me personally, I'm not a big vapor. Throughout the day, I medicate and keep my PTSD at bay with joints, and that's just the way I've always been. But when doctors say that the safest way to ingest cannabis medically is eating it or vaping it, we've got to provide a safe tool for these veterans to do that. So if they choose not to use the vape pen, we're going to also offer the oil, not in a cartridge, but just oil in a bucket, or in a small syringe, so they could dab it if they want to. So it'll come in a cartridge, day and night, a little mini syringe, day and night, and we're also going to make a hemp CBD version of the pen also. So those ones we'll be able to hand out at rallies and whatnot because there's no restrictions on doing that now.
you say that these help with calming down common symptoms of PTSD. What are some common symptoms of PTSD?
That's a very good question. For me, um, I get brought back to the times that I was abused, and I can't keep it out of my head as much as I want to. Why would I possibly ever want to think about those times, the times that those things happened to me, and I can't control it. And they get stuck in my head. And I immediately get down on myself. For me, I also, like I said, I have night terrors. I have a 6-year-old boy now that he slept with us since birth. His name's Memphis, my little boy, and I just can't even imagine. There's so many times that he's, you know, rubbed my head or my body, my back while I'm having night terrors, and being able to grab onto him after waking up from a night terror. My dreams, my whole life have always been the same. That I'm always being chased, and they've never changed. And it's always a struggle. Like I'm just screaming, trying to get away from these people, and it's just these horrible sounds that come out of my mouth. I don't know if you have night terrors or not, but and then cold sweats, two to three times a day, about I would say, where I'll have to actually go outside, step aside, get in front of a fan. That's just a part of my life now that I've just become accustomed to, is those cold sweats. How about you?
Well, my symptoms were very similar. I insomnia, nightmares, and I have been using a vaporizer for my symptoms. I bought my first vaporizer from Namaste Technologies, and kind of got me introduced with them. And initially, I was smoking, and it wasn't. I was coughing a lot. I was just wasn't feeling good. And when I switched to vaporizers, that all changed. So feel great now. And
Right.
yeah, absolutely. When you wake up in the middle of the night, do you use your pen to help you get back to sleep?
Yes. And I just got a PAX 3 um, in the mail today from, I, I'm thinking it's from Namaste Technologies. You were the one that sent it, right? Was it you that sent it?
I I don't
I,
remember sending a PAX 3.
okay, well, somebody from Namaste just sent this to me. I got it in the mail today, so I'm really excited to use this. This thing is incredible.
What color did you get?
I got a gunmetal color.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it has an app with it. I'm really excited to test it out, and it uses oil and flour, so I'm super excited. When I went to go get my authorization from my doctor, I remember seeing one of these on her desk, and I was like, "What is that?" And she was like, "Oh, it's my packs. That's the only thing I've ever used to medicate with. I love them." And that was the first time I ever heard of packs. My doctor loves it.
Yeah, Namaste, they sell pretty much every vaporizer you could think of. PAX is definitely one of their popular ones. I just had a question about your pen there. So you say these are cartridges. Is it kind of like a Keurig coffee machine that it's a one-time use, then you dispose of it, or can you refill it? How does that work?
Yeah. So man, I wish I could show you, but it's just the small cartridges with the chrome mouthpiece. Um, the new ones will come with a half gram in it, and after you're done with that half gram, the cartridge is reusable. The reason why I chose Vuber for my cartridges is because they offer a lifetime warranty on their cartridges, and they have a good rating on them. But the ones I'll be using are refillable, and so if you have your little syringe, and you could refill these cartridges and keep using them, for sure. But there are cartridges that are throwaway. You know, I'm one of those guys that cares about the carbon footprint, so I thought about having a throwaway pin in the beginning, but I changed my mind. I just don't think that those are too good for us. But yeah, I'll just be. And I was gonna have a cartridge and a battery in the same package, and I alleviated the battery because a lot of people have their own batteries already. So it'll just be, um, you know, a cartridge with a half gram of oil in it, and then the same, almost the same cartridge for the hemp, the one made from hemp CBD. There'll be three different versions, like I explained to you earlier. But and the oil that we're going to be using, also, in medical in Washington State, BHO, which is butane, is not allowed to be in medical in any way, shape, or form. So um, CO2 is allowed. We're going to be going with CO2, and there's a company out of Spokane called Odo Oil, and they're just absolutely incredible. What they're doing with CO2, I've never seen done before. They're going to be the ones that are going to be making the oil for the first run of our pen, for the PTSD rescue pen. A lot of people are coming to get this thing on the shelf. It's pretty incredible, all the people that are coming together. We're going to be looking for flower from a garden that was grown from a veteran. We want to find a veteran-owned garden, so the flower is veteran-grown, and then we take it over to the oil guys, and we want to, we just want veterans involved in every step of the process, and use veterans as much as we can throughout this whole thing.
During your initial manufacturing of these, you mentioned that it was shut down. What happened there?
Well, we were just shut down. All of medical was shut down in Washington State. So before retail, we had medical, and then and it was kind of a gray area, right? Because you had shops that really, some had licenses, some didn't, some paid taxes, some didn't, um, and it was kind of a gray area that was allowed to flourish. And it was a really good system. We had incredible products in medical, and when retail came on board, we were told that medical was going to be able to get licenses and all these things, and all these promises were made, and it just didn't happen. I bought three licenses or applications for licenses, and I didn't get anything. And so I was one of the people that, legislators and senators said that, don't worry, Patrick, you're going to get a license. Don't worry, don't worry. And I never got a license. Looking back in retrospect, I think it was a blessing, because you can't have a license for a cannabis shop and make products. So if I had a shop, I wouldn't be able to come out with this pen unless, I mean, I suppose I could have had somebody else and somebody else's name do it, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Now I'll be able to produce and bring this pen to the market in Washington State and do licensing agreement in all the other states. And, it's going to be fun flying around from state to state, picking gardens and people to make this pen in all these different states, and someday hopefully get up into Canada and go to Israel. The sky's the limit with this thing. There's veterans everywhere, and this is going to be something that every veteran needs to have in his pocket. At least every veteran that has PTSD.
Well, I look forward to seeing it, and after speaking with you, I had no idea the suicide numbers among veterans was so high, and I'm very happy we have people like you working hard to help our veterans.
What's the suicide rate in Canada? Do you know?
I do not know that rate, and
I'm
I'm
sure it's not high.
yeah, I have no idea. Hopefully, it's not that high. I know we do have a lot of ex-soldiers and current soldiers with PTSD up here, and I hope we do have an organization like yours helping them up here.
Right
Um,
on.
Patrick, is there anything else you want to add before we call it a night?
No, just you know, we just gotta spread the word um, about these suicides. The they're just I don't know. I just don't think that enough people. I think if people knew about these numbers, well, I'd like to think that if they knew about these numbers, it would lead every news cycle, you know. But I guess if you don't have a face or a name to put with the 20 daily suicides, it's almost like it's not real, you know. So maybe that's something that we need to work on is trying to log or somehow follow these suicides that are happening and try to put faces to these names, and then maybe people will do something. I don't know, but by all means necessary, we need to end veteran suicide, and that's what we believe. There's everything should be on the table when we're losing 20 to 22 a day. You know, just while Trump's been president, we've lost over 2,000 veterans to suicide, and at the rate of 20 a day, when he's done, there's going to be a lot of veterans lost to suicide, and we need to, an independent council declare war on veteran suicide. Do something, please. There's got to be something more that's being done that's not being done, and it would just be simply the president or somebody high up, close to the president, stepping to the mic and saying, you know what, we need to figure out what's going on. We're losing 20 a day. Let's have an independent council look into this, something. There's just not enough being done. Our veterans are being failed. It used to be that most of those suicides were Vietnam era vets. Those are the most of the guys and women killing themselves were Vietnam era vets.
Really?
Those guys in Vietnam did one, maybe two tours, right? They didn't do three, four, five, and those are the guys. They most of them did one. Those are the guys right now mostly killing themselves. We have an entire generation coming back, maybe even two generations coming back that have been to the battlefield five, six times. How do you send a human being to war five or six times and then not be prepared to take care of them when they get home? It's completely crazy. I fear that number of 20 to 22 might go up before it goes down. The only thing that might combat it is that every 2 years, every voting cycle, another state comes on medical, another state comes on for retail. So the more states that come on to medical until all the states have medical, um, we'll see these numbers. I hope they don't rise, but man, I just don't know. I just don't know.
What is the average time a soldier would have between tours? You're saying that some would have three, four, even five tours. What would be the time difference between the tours?
You know what? That's a really good question. But the guys that I'm hanging around with, they got to come home. Um, some, I don't think it was any less than 6 months before you would go back. But that's a good question. I'm going to ask my guys as soon as I get off this interview. But most of them, it was six. I know when I did, we did, we call them pumps, and you'd go out for 6 months and then come back for 6 months to a year, then go back. So it's somewhere between 6 months to a year, and then you go back. So if you have a guy that goes in 20 years, I mean, just to imagine how many times they can send somebody. I mean, I know that's their job. I know when you join the military, your job is to see war. But if you're going to send them to war that many times, if you're really going to do that to a human being, be prepared to take care of them when they come back. Don't deny their claim that they have PTSD after they've seen war five or six different times. I mean, come on. Don't deny our guys' claims when they've been blown up once or twice that they have TBI. Don't, and every time they eventually pay it and they offer back pay, but they stress these guys out to the max. Every so many of my guys have fought for their benefits, and in the end, they get some big back check that they owed them anyway. But I mean, and it's nice, believe me, it's nice that they get it. But the stress that they put these guys through for the years that they have to fight for the benefits, I mean, come on, that's when these guys are killing themselves when they're waiting for those benefits to come back. It's nuts.
Yeah, this is definitely a problem we need to resolve, and like I said, I'm very happy that we have people like you working hard to help our veterans and get this resolved. Patrick,
Yeah,
I'd love to have you back on again, and we could follow your progress, follow your organization's progress. Thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, thanks again. I can't say thank you enough.
yeah, I really appreciate you having us on here. Mike's going to be coming out for that thing on July 22nd. That'd be great if you guys could come out. That's going to be a really big day because um, it's our third annual, and that's going to be the drop of that pin. That's going to be the pin's going to hit the world on that day. That's going to be a big day.
Well, we look forward to that day, and keep up the great work. And until next time, Patrick, thanks again.
All right, love and light.